The protagonist, a human engineer named Alex, is sent to a distant planet to help with the construction of a scientific outpost. While exploring the alien city, he accidentally bumps into a mysterious blue-skinned alien woman, Queen Elara's daughter, Lyra. In a moment of clumsiness, his hand accidentally touches her, an action that in her culture is considered a sacred bonding accident. Lyra suddenly freezes, staring at him with intensity. She whispers, "You touched me. I now take you as my husband." Alex panics, not understanding her culture or the seriousness of the statement. The surrounding alien crowd reacts silently but watches curiously, adding tension. Lyra walks away gracefully, leaving Alex confused and fearful. Welcome to my channel Starlight Sci-Fi Stories. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Alex had always considered himself an ordinary human. A young engineer curious about technology and fascinated by alien worlds. He never imagined that a single trip to the planet Zarathia would change his life forever. The assignment seemed simple enough. Help the alien engineers construct a scientific outpost on the edge of their floating city. But Zarathia was unlike anything Alex had seen. The city floated among clouds of shimmering energy, buildings crafted from materials that seemed to glow from within. Strange creatures moved in the streets, their features both beautiful and unsettling. He had only been walking through the central plaza for a few minutes when it happened. Alex was adjusting his translator device, which occasionally garbled the alien language into ridiculous human phrases, when he tripped over a low-energy barrier. Trying to regain his balance, his hand shot out, and accidentally brushed against something soft and warm. He froze. A voice, smooth yet commanding, said, "You touched me." Alex looked up and saw a blue-skinned woman with hair that shimmered like liquid silver. Her eyes glowed faintly, a mesmerizing shade of violet. She was tall and regal, moving with a grace that made the chaos of the plaza fade into the background. He immediately realized she was not just any citizen. She was someone important. And judging by the whispers from the crowd gathering around, she was extremely important. I'm so sorry." Alex stammered, trying to pull his hand back, but she didn't move. Instead, she tilted her head and studied him, her eyes intense and unyielding. "You touched me. I now take you as my husband," she said. Alex's brain short-circuited. "Husband? What? Wait. No, I didn't." He tried to explain, but the translator device failed him. The alien words came out sounding like nonsense. Worse, the crowd around them didn't laugh or intervene. They just watched, wide-eyed and silent. The energy in the plaza shifted, tense and electric, like the calm before a storm. Alex had never felt smaller in his life. On Earth, a misunderstanding like this might have earned an awkward apology. On Zarathia, it seemed like it could start a war, or worse. Before he could react, the blue-skinned woman, whose name he would soon learn was Lyra, turned and walked away. Every step she took seemed deliberate, almost ritualistic. The crowd parted for her, their silence almost deafening. Alex, feeling like an intruder in a world he barely understood, tried to follow, but a pair of tall, armored guards blocked his path. You need to come with us," one of them said in alien tones. The translator device turned it into, "You will meet the one who decides your fate." Alex swallowed hard and nodded, realizing he had no choice. He was escorted through narrow alleys that glowed with strange light, up floating stairways that defied gravity, and finally to a towering palace carved from a single glowing crystal. Inside, everything was both beautiful and intimidating. The walls shimmered with energy patterns, and the air smelled faintly of ozone and something floral. As he was led to a grand chamber, a voice like rolling thunder spoke. "Welcome, human." Alex turned to see Queen Elara, Lyra's mother. She was imposing, her presence larger than life. Her blue skin shone like polished sapphire, and her eyes were sharp, intelligent, and commanding. "I see my daughter has made an interesting choice," she said, her tone teasing but firm. Alex's translator tried to help. "Interesting choice," he thought. "I didn't make a choice. I tripped and touched her by accident. I didn't mean to. It was a mistake, he tried, but the words sounded weak, even to his own ears. The queen smiled, a faint, knowing curve of her lips. In Zarathia, certain actions have consequences that are binding. Once the bond is made, it cannot be easily broken. Alex felt a cold wave of fear. He had accidentally triggered some sacred law he didn't understand. He tried to imagine his family's reaction if they could see him now, trapped on a floating alien city, accused of touching someone accidentally. You will learn our ways, the queen continued. And perhaps you will understand why your hand was not so accidental. Alex was led to a luxurious room that overlooked the city. The windows were transparent yet shone with a soft glow, showing him floating islands, glowing bridges, and alien ships moving through the sky. The beauty was breathtaking, but Alex could hardly enjoy it. His mind was racing, trying to figure out how to survive this bizarre situation. No sooner had he sat down than the door slid open with a whisper of energy, and Lyra appeared. Her expression was calm, unreadable, but her violet eyes were fixed on him. You will stay here, she said softly, until you understand what it means to be mine. Alex blinked. Understand what? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Lyra didn't answer. She simply walked closer, each step echoing softly on the crystalline floor. She stopped just a few feet away, studying him like one would observe a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. The translator buzzed in his ear, barely keeping up. It whispered, "This is your trial. Fail and there will be consequences." Alex felt trapped. He was a human used to solving technical problems, but this was different. He couldn't engineer his way out of a social disaster of alien proportions. Over the next hour, Alex tried to understand Lyra's culture, asking questions, observing her behavior, and attempting to apologize in the most respectful way possible. But every answer seemed to deepen the mystery. Lyra's words were carefully measured, often poetic, and sometimes entirely incomprehensible. The palace itself seemed alive. Energy flowed through the walls, humming softly, responding to Lyra's presence. Guards watched silently, but never intervened unless Lyra gave a subtle nod. Alex realized slowly that Lyra was not just royalty, she was something more. Powerful, intelligent, and utterly alien. And yet, in small moments, Alex noticed flashes of something human in her. A fleeting smile when he said something witty, a softening of her eyes when he fumbled with a strange alien device. She was testing him, he realized, observing whether he could survive in her world. Hours passed. The sun, or whatever passed for a sun on Zarathia, began to dip behind the floating islands. Alex, exhausted and tense, tried to relax. But Lyra's presence made it impossible. Every time he looked at her, he felt the weight of that accidental touch, a bond that he hadn't agreed to but that now seemed impossible to deny. The night on Zarathia was quiet, yet the city thrummed with unseen energy. Alex lay on the soft alien couch, staring at the glowing ceiling of his luxurious palace. He reminded himself. Every moment of the day replayed in his mind. The accidental touch, Lyra's words, the queen's knowing smile. Sleep tried to claim him, but he was too tense, too aware that tomorrow, his life would change forever. The soft humming of energy in the walls was almost hypnotic. He wondered if he had imagined the momentary flashes he had seen in Lyra's eyes. Curiosity, amusement, maybe even something resembling respect. He shook his head. Respect. From a princess on a planet where humans were probably considered weak and fragile. Impossible. Morning arrived, though morning on Zarathia was unlike anything Alex had experienced. Light flowed through the palace in soft waves, changing colors like a living painting. Birds, or something like birds, flew past the windows, their forms flickering as if partially intangible. The palace doors slid open silently, and Lyra appeared, dressed in ceremonial robes that shimmered with her bioluminescence. "You are awake," she said simply, her voice calm but commanding. Alex scrambled to stand, trying to seem confident. Yes. I'm ready. Lyra tilted her head. Ready for what? Alex's translator buzzed softly. Ready to survive. He swallowed hard, realizing that the meaning was both literal and figurative. You will learn, Lyra said, what it means to be bonded to me. Over the next few hours, Alex discovered that being bonded to Lyra was not just ceremonial. It gave him access to things no ordinary human could handle. Guards no longer blocked his path. Certain restricted areas opened for him. Even the energy flows in the palace seemed to respond to his presence, humming softly as he walked through them. But the strange privileges came with pressure. He quickly learned that life in Zarathia was not just luxurious, it was dangerous. Political intrigue ran deep, and every noble, advisor, and courtier observed him closely. Rumors whispered through the palace. The human touched her. What does this mean? Some were curious, others hostile. Alex realized that his survival depended on learning quickly. He tried to mimic Lyra's calm, measured movements, observed her gestures, and even attempted to study the palace energy fields to understand what she controlled. Lyra watched him silently for most of the day. Occasionally, she would step closer, teaching him subtle ways to harness the ambient energy. Alex struggled, often fumbling, but Lyra's rare smiles were encouragement enough to keep going. You are different from what I expected, she said finally, her violet eyes studying him intently. Alex raised an eyebrow. Different how? Lyra's lips curved slightly. Humans are fragile. Yet you are persistent. You do not run even when you do not understand the rules. That is unusual. Her words lingered in Alex's mind. On Earth he had faced tough challenges but nothing like this. He was a human among beings far stronger, more advanced, and more dangerous. And yet somehow he felt capable. Maybe it was the bond, or maybe humans really were special. That evening, during a ceremonial feast, Alex witnessed the true stakes of life in Zarathia. Nobles and warriors from distant planets arrived to pledge loyalty, or challenge it. One figure, taller and darker than the others, lingered in the shadows. His eyes fixed on Lyra. Alex felt a chill. Something about him screamed danger. Later, as the palace quieted, Lyra approached Alex in the gardens. The floating gardens shimmered with bioluminescent plants and hovering streams of water. There are those who would harm me, Lyra said softly. And by extension you. Alex frowned. Harm you? Why me? Lyra's gaze softened, though it still burned with intensity. Because being bonded to me means you are mine. And some do not like humans having that kind of power. Alex realized the truth in her words. Suddenly, his accidental touch had set off a chain of events that could have deadly consequences. But he also felt something else, excitement. Finally, his skills, his mind, his courage might actually matter in this strange world. No one gave him time to dwell on this. That night, alarms blared through the palace. The dark figure from the feast had led a sudden attack. Armed creatures, tall and strong, swarmed the palace walls, cutting through defenses as if they were fragile branches. Alex froze for a moment, then remembered the energy patterns Lyra had shown him. He rushed to her side, instinctively shielding her as a blast of energy shot toward them. He realized he had no weapons, only his knowledge, his quick thinking, and his human ingenuity. Move! Lyra commanded, guiding him through the glowing corridors. She created barriers of energy with her hands, deflecting attacks, while Alex scrambled to find alternate paths. At one point, they reached a balcony overlooking the city. Below, the alien attackers tried to scale the walls. Alex's heart pounded. He looked around and saw glowing energy orbs hovering near the palace gardens, devices he remembered Lyra had used earlier. With a leap of courage, he grabbed one, twisting its controls. A surge of energy shot out, knocking several attackers off balance. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. Impressive, she admitted, though her voice remained calm. They moved together through the palace, Alex learning quickly, adapting to a world that had seemed impossible to navigate hours before. By sheer determination, clever thinking, and a little luck, they managed to reach the central chamber where the queen awaited. Queen Elora observed the scene quietly. The attackers had been driven back, but the tension was palpable. She turned to Alex. "You survived," she said simply. Alex exhaled, feeling a mix of relief and disbelief. "I didn't know what else to do." The queen's gaze softened slightly. "That is exactly why you are different. Humans. They do not rely solely on power. They rely on courage, on ingenuity. That is something few in Zarathia possess." Lyra stepped closer to Alex, her hand brushing against his. "I see it now," she said quietly. "Perhaps our bond was not just by accident." Alex looked into her glowing violet eyes, and for the first time he understood. This bond was strange, unexpected, and dangerous. But it was real. And maybe, just maybe, he could survive in this alien world and even thrive. The days that followed were a whirlwind of learning, danger, and subtle connection. Alex trained under Lyra's guidance, learning to interact with energy flows, communicate subtly with the palace guards, and navigate court politics. He discovered that being human was an advantage in ways he had never imagined. Unpredictability, creativity, and persistence were valued even among the powerful aliens. Lyra and Alex grew closer. She taught him the meaning of honor, loyalty, and courage in her culture, while he showed her the beauty of human determination. The bond formed that first accidental day began to deepen, not just through rules or tradition, but through trust and shared experience. One evening, standing on the palace balcony overlooking the glowing city, Alex realized something he hadn't expected. He had fallen for her. And as he looked at Lyra, radiant and powerful, he saw something reflected in her eyes too. A respect, a curiosity, and maybe